Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. If it's making news in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, across Canada, or around the world, we're going to be tackling it right here on Newsmakers. And our guest today has had a remarkable journey that has taken him from the minor hockey rink to the big time of the National Hockey League. But that's not all. He's also an actor, a host, a philanthropist, and I'm pleased to have him on Newsmakers. Please join me in welcoming Mark Shunock to Newsmakers. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me on. Great to be here.
How did a kid from Sault Ste. Marie find the bright lights in Las Vegas?
It's a great question, and I get asked it a lot. Just like every other kid in Canada, I wanted to raise the Stanley Cup. I wanted to be a hockey player who didn't. And, I'm very proud of where I'm from. You can see it behind me on the wall. Sault Ste. Marie is home, always has been. It's a great place to live and grow up. And, the dream didn't work out. The hockey dream didn't pan out. So I was like, what am I going to do? Ended up moving to New York City as a 19, 20-year-old to pursue a career on stage. And got lucky. I was a part of some wonderful Broadway shows, The Lion King, various other things. Got really great at subletting my New York City apartment. And then one day Rock of Ages called and said, hey, would you like to open the show at the Venetian? And I said, sure, man, I'll do 6 months, I'll do a year, and we'll find the next gig. And here I am going on 14 years in Las Vegas. So it's been an incredible ride, and Vegas is home, will be. It's a very special place. There's so much here, and just honored to be a part of this community. But that's how I ended up here, man. You're seeing those pictures. Rock of Ages brought me here just over 13 years ago.
It's an awesome journey, and I want to start at the beginning. You are the youngest of 5 kids, I believe, growing up in Sault Ste. Marie. What was that like?
Like I said, man, incredible. It's a wonderful city, and I have a wonderful family. Everybody's still with us, knock on wood. My parents are just incredible human beings, and they just taught us well, man. And we're so tight as a family. My oldest brother lives in Southern Ontario. He's a grandfather now. And my other brothers and sister, we talk almost daily. So, I think that's a testament to Sault Ste. Marie, but it's also a big tip of the cap to mom and dad. And I'm just very grateful for my family. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without my brothers and sister and my incredible parents.
Mm-hmm. Your dad, George, bought the Sioux Greyhounds in 1988. How did that come about?
The team at the time, the Greyhounds, were owned at the time by Phil and Tony Esposito. And their plan was to sell the team to the CompuWare organization, which was based in Michigan. And that at that time, it would have been the first Ontario Hockey League team to move to the United States. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, listen, Sault Ste. Marie's got an incredible steel mill and an incredible hockey team, and we're not losing either. And so he rallied and put a team together to keep the Hounds in Sault Ste. Marie. I remember as a youngster standing on the corner of Queen Street, which is our main drag, with a bucket, asking for people driving by to throw in a loonie.
Wow.
It was right when the loonie came out, I believe, 87, 86. I'm not sure when the loonie came out, but it was around that time. And we raised $250,000 in loonies in Sault Ste. Marie from the general public. My father matched the offer from CompuWare, and the Esposito brothers did the right thing. They sold it to my father and a group of investors, and the team's been in the community ever since, never left. Mm-hmm. A couple years after my dad bought the team, they won the Memorial Cup. So it was an incredible time for me as a young kid to witness my father, who was a dentist by trade, enter into professional sports or semi-professional sports as an owner and leader, and bring this team from the brink of being relocated to Michigan to winning a national championship. So that was really the time when my passion for the game became something much larger than just watching and being a coach in the stands.
That's an awesome story, by the way. We just flashed a picture from you in your earlier days in the Belleville Bulls uniform, classic goaltending gear. What drew you to that position on the ice?
My oldest brother was a goaltender and, believe it or not, played for the Belleville Bulls. There's a big difference in age between him and I.
Yeah.
He actually married the owner of the Belleville Bulls' daughter. They still live in the Belleville area.
Wow.
And I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I was not nearly as good as he was. I was a third string goaltender. I was shipped down to the Wellington Dukes farm team. And, I rode the pines as a goalie. And as everybody knows in Canada, if you're not on the ice playing in the net, it can drive you bananas. And I think that's where I got my goofy personality. And, I started singing from the crease and acting all weird. Goalies are weird, right? We're just a weird breed. And I think that's sort of what propelled me into an entertainment career. But, being a part of that organization and the Canadian Hockey League, the OHL, for the brief time that I was there, was really special. To this day, I brag about the Canadian Hockey League and the work they do to develop young talent and make these young men into the stars that they are in the National Hockey League, but just great people. I think the Ontario Hockey League, specifically the ownership group across the board, they're just great people, and they're really great at developing young talent.
Talking with Mark Shunock. He's an actor, a host, a philanthropist. He grew up in Sioux with the dreams of hoisting the Stanley Cup, which you did, and we'll get to later on in the podcast. But I want to ask you about that transition from the hockey rink to the stage. When and how did that happen?
Like I said, I returned back to Sault Ste. Marie, living in Southern Ontario, and I figured this hockey career isn't going anywhere. And while I was finishing up my last year of high school, believe it or not, goes all the way back to being 17, 18 years old, we had a local community theater director who had moved to Sault Ste. Marie and was married to an Oscar-winning actress, Lila Kadrova. And they had retired outside of the Sioux on the water and, decided one day to start a local theater company. And, the rest is history here. They invited me to get up on stage. And after that first local dab in community theater, I got the bug. And that's it. I said, you know what, look, I'm going to venture off and move to New York and try and chase a dream. And there were other young professionals from the Sioux who had done that, so I wasn't the first. I was fortunate to see what they had done and which schools they had elected to go to, and I didn't know anything about NYU or Juilliard or Carnegie Mellon, these great theater institutions. I just ventured off to New York and figured it out and just surrounded myself with incredible professionals in the business. But that's really how the transition started. It was a director by the name of Richard Howard and his wife, Lila Kadrova, who's an Academy Award winner. It's not every day you walk into a house in Sault Ste. Marie and see an Oscar sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience.
What did your parents and siblings think of your move from the Sioux to the bright lights of New York City?
I think at that time they were a little nervous, right? My parents are in their 80s now, and back then I was I'm still the youngest of five, but parenting changed, right? And that just shows you how special my parents are, that they were willing to adapt with the change of time. And I don't think my older siblings would have ever been granted that opportunity. I may be wrong there, but I just think that as their parenting skills grew, or maybe their lack of patience as they had their fifth and they were like, just get the heck out of here. Yeah. It was a wonderful time, and it was really embraced by everybody in my family, not just my parents. My brothers and sisters were excited about the fact that their youngest brother was chasing a career in New York City. And so there were frequent visits and ticket requests, and that really hasn't stopped. Somebody who works in entertainment, and now that I'm in Vegas and there's 200,000 tickets a night to various events, the phone rings, and people from the Sioux tend to call all the time. And people from the Sioux I don't even know, they're like, hey man, I'm from the Sioux, I'm in Vegas, can we hang out? All right.
That is pretty cool. When did you get your big break, and what was the role?
Hakuna Matata. It was Timon in The Lion King would be considered the big break on stage. I think it had a lot to do with my physicality and my height. I'm 5'7" on a good day. So being able to carry a 4.5 foot puppet around 8 shows a week on stage and I just fell in love with the art of puppeteering. But more importantly, the big thing for The Lion King for me was bringing that character Timon to life every night. It was an iconic role, is an iconic role. And I used to be able to bring that puppet into schools all across the United States and let kids, sing along with me and play. And a part of the journey that I'll certainly never forget. So that was really the big break. And it's a convincing thing to tell casting directors and directors that you have the ability to perform 8 shows a week and have that endurance to be able to pull that off. And so from that point on, I was blessed to be able to audition for the best shows, and getting to Vegas really is something that changed my life. Here we are.
Absolutely. How would you describe the rush, the adrenaline rush that you got on the ice compared to that of what you get on the stage? Is it similar? Is it different?
I think there's those, we call them the butterflies, right? You get butterflies before you step out on the ice before a big game, and you certainly get butterflies before you step out on stage. And if you don't, you're not doing it for the right reasons. Even to this day, if I'm at a Golden Knights hockey game or I'm at a WWE event, it's literally butterflies, right? And that just means you're doing it for the right reasons, and it's still exciting. One of the big challenges with Broadway shows and of that nature, you're doing the same thing every night. So it's really important that, it's fresh and people are seeing you for the first time and somebody's seeing you for the last time. So that was always my motivation to go out there and make sure I left it all on the stage, or you leave it all on the ice. So there's not much difference. And really what was really remarkable to learn was in sports, you're in a locker room. In theater or entertainment, you're in a dressing room. But that camaraderie amongst that family that you develop, the bond you develop with the players or your co-stars, it's identical.
So you're killing it in Rock of Ages, you're killing it in The Lion King, and all of a sudden the Las Vegas Golden Knights hockey team, this expansion franchise, picks up the phone and says, "Hey, Mark, can you be our in-arena host?" How did that happen?
It actually started before the team was awarded. I was in my dressing room getting ready to go on stage for Rock of Ages, and Bill Foley, our owner from Fidelity Financial, goes on the news and says, "Hey, look, we want to embark on possibly bringing a pro hockey team to Vegas." And just like anybody else who saw that first announcement, we're like, "Yeah, whatever, that's never going to happen." But the crazy guy that I am, literally the next day, I cold called Bill's office and I said, "Hey, my name is Mark Shunock. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie. I know the game like the back of my hand. How can I help you?" And at that time, there was one employee dedicated to what we were calling the Vegas Wants Hockey campaign. And it reminded me of, saving the Greyhounds back in Sault Ste. Marie. My job was to call you and I'd say, "Hey, I need $1,000 for a season ticket deposit for a team that doesn't exist, but don't worry, it's refundable." And that's what we did. In any other market, we would have probably sold 15,000, 16,000 season tickets in a month, in Canada or a major hockey market. But in Vegas, it took us about 5 months to do it. While that was happening, we were building T-Mobile Arena, so we were fortunate that a state-of-the-art brand new arena was being built. We got those season ticket deposits, and again, not beating a dead horse, the rest is history. Mm-hmm. The NHL awarded a franchise, and I was offered a goofy job in the arena, and I had no intention of ever becoming a host in professional sports. Yeah. I looked at it as a fan with a microphone, right? And I think that's why I'm still in pro sports today, and I've had the career over the last decade that I've had, is because I take a different approach to doing what I do. I have such a passion for the game, and it's just been a wild ride. We're about to enter our 9th season here in a few weeks, and I look forward to it every day.
Golden Knights go to the Stanley Cup final in year number 1, which is unprecedented still to this day for an expansion team. You end up winning the cup a few years later. We just flashed your photo of raising the cup above your head. What was that like?
Dream come true. Yeah. I flew my father and 2 of my brothers out to be with me. We knew that it was over in Game 5 when it came home. There was just no way we were going to lose that game. The city was just buzzing. And, I'll never forget that moment. I was on the ice doing interviews. Producer in my ear says, "Hey, Shunock, you're wrapped." And so I was just enjoying the party. I was just out there. I took my earpiece out and I'm watching wives and parents and siblings all party with this cup, and it was making its rounds. And all of a sudden I just heard my name, "Shunock, it's your turn." And they handed me the cup, and I made sure I made eye contact with my dad. Even to this day, it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, there's moments in your life that are staples or branded into your brain. That will certainly be one of them. And everything that we've talked about up to this point in this interview, it all was about hockey. And Sault Ste. Marie, it's such a big part of our culture there, that to hoist a trophy as a small piece of this organization, something I won't forget. And really, it didn't set in until about a month later, because the minute we won the cup, the entertainment department was responsible for putting the parade together. I'm screaming my brains out in front of 250,000 people in our plaza hosting the parade. And then, a couple weeks after, I open my phone like I do every morning. I check my email and it says, "Hey guys, click the link to get fitted for a Stanley Cup ring." And I think that's the moment that, it really hit. My wife, unfortunately, was on the road on a gig, and here I am crying as a grown man at 8 a.m. in my bed going, "Oh my God, I'm getting a ring." And it wasn't about me getting a ring. It was about Shunock going on a Stanley Cup ring. And truth be told, the minute the thing came in, it was in a FedEx box and it was sent to Sault Ste. Marie. And my father sent me pictures a week later with the ring on his finger. And, that's it. That's everything for me.
That is pretty cool. Does the in-arena host get their name on the cup as well?
Yeah, I wish. I wish. I think Gritty in Philadelphia has a better shot of getting their name on the cup before the arena host does. So unfortunately, no. But I've got this incredible piece of jewelry that is insured and sits in a safe, and everybody, when they come to dinner, they want to see it. So I'll take that.
Yeah, that's an absolute close second for sure. So you're with the Golden Knights. You've killed it on stage with these Broadway productions, and now Top Rank Boxing. And you mentioned WWE call as well. You're getting tugged back into the sports realm.
Yeah, the acting career, believe it or not, got put on hold, which, I wasn't upset about. But to this day, there's still that itch of performing and getting back on stage or in a film or TV. That's just who I am. Mm-hmm. But really right away, season 1, about 3 weeks into our inaugural season, I got a call from CAA Sports in Los Angeles, basically just saying, "Hey, look, we represent Top Rank Boxing, which is based in Vegas, and their president CEO, Todd DeBoeuf, is a avid hockey fan and played for BU. D1. So he came to a game and was like, "Who's that guy? Let's hire that guy." And that's how it started. And I was blessed to be able to host and be the ring announcer for Top Rank Boxing for almost 7 years. It's remarkable. I traveled the world with them and became really close with fighters. Thursday I would host a press conference. Friday I would host the weigh-ins, and Saturday I would do the ring announcing. And so you start to develop a rapport and a relationship with the fighters, and it's a wonderful sport, right? And I'm probably one of the best on the planet, to be honest. I know we're going back to Canada right now and talking all things hockey, but these young men and women put their lives on the line and walk into a ring and risk everything to, some of them, put food on their table. Mm-hmm. So it was just an incredible experience to be a part of, hands down, the best promotional company in boxing on the planet. Bob Arum, just a legend in the sport. Yeah. 1966, he promoted a Muhammad Ali fight in Toronto, of all places, and that's how he got his start in boxing. And he's been one of the most iconic, prolific boxing promoters in the sport. So just to be a part of that organization was wild. And then we obviously got the Raiders moved here from Oakland, and I was privileged to work with them as a host for 2 seasons. So, in 8 years, 9 years of being in Las Vegas post my Broadway career, I've worked for a National Hockey League team directly for the National Hockey League, doing all of their major market events, the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series, the Stanley Cup television show. I worked for the National Football League and the Raiders for a couple of seasons. And I got a call last year to join the WWE as a ring announcer. And so it's been a wild ride. And without question, yeah, I bust my ass, pardon my French, and I work hard. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of it is because of just the energy and effort I put into creating a niche for myself here in Las Vegas. This city is a remarkable place to live. And I'm just a kid in a candy store, incredibly grateful for every opportunity that comes my way. And this isn't me being cheesy. This is shared with my family on the daily, and I'm so grateful to be on your show today because you understand what community is about, where we're from, and there's no BS there. Sault Ste. Marie is a big part of who I am. And every day I wake up, I speak to mom and dad, and like I said, it's hanging behind me on the wall here somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
That's a local artist in Sault Ste. Marie that I followed on Instagram, and I hit him up and I said, "Hey, can you send me one of those to Vegas?"
Nice.
So it's been an incredible journey. So thanks again for this opportunity to tell it to Ontario.
Yeah, no one gets to where you've gone without putting in that sweat equity. And a big part of that, and anyone who's been watching this for the past several minutes has seen actor, host, and philanthropist. Now, I want to get to that last part because you're giving back to the community in a big way with Monday's Dark. Talk about that.
Yeah, the hat I'm wearing, it says Polaris and Harmon. It's a venue that my wife and I own on the corner of Polaris and Harmon here in Vegas. It's a block off the Strip right behind the Aria and the Cosmopolitan. The name Monday's Dark stems from the fact that Broadway is traditionally dark on Monday. So 12 years ago, that's how long this program has been around now. 12 years ago, when I was doing Rock of Ages, Monday was my only night off. And so I would gather the best headliners and entertainers from the Strip on Monday night. And I said, hey, come perform at our venue and we'll give all the money away. And so our goal on Monday night is always to raise $10,000 for a deserving cause. And we've done that over 230 times now over the past decade, 12 years. And we've raised almost $2.5 million for Vegas.
Wow.
We're embarking now currently on a massive project to build a new facility with mental health and wellness at the forefront so that anybody who works in hospitality, entertainment, first responders, veterans, and our public educators and students can go and get help when they need it. So, we're raising a ton of money out here. And again, not beating a dead horse, that is a testament to the way we were raised in Sault Ste. Marie. People in the Sioux take care of each other, they look after each other, and people ask me all the time, they're like, what are you doing, man? You're so busy. Why are you and your wife spending so much time giving back to the community the way you are? It's not often every day that you hear somebody writes a check for $10,000 every other Monday. And we just felt obligated. My wife and I looked at each other when we moved here with Rock of Ages, and we were like, man, this is a special place. What an incredible opportunity. Let's give back a bit. And that let's give back a bit has turned into a big part of our lives. It's not a bit, or it's really an identifier for us in our local community. People know Cheryl and I as the two who run Monday's Dark and the space. And we're honored to be able to give back the way we do.
That's incredible. Big ups to you and your wife and the entire community for rallying around that. That's a special thing that you have going. Are there any empty days on your calendar? It sounds like it's pretty full.
Yeah, not many, man. Not the ring announcer with Friday Night SmackDown. The WWE is unbelievable. They produce 3 television shows a week, 52 weeks a year. So I'm in the SmackDown category. Everybody's heard of Friday Night SmackDown. So we shoot live somewhere Friday night. So I'm usually on a plane Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, heading to that location. We work live Friday night and I come home Saturday morning. And then when I'm home, Saturday through Thursday, the focus is usually on business at the space or with our Monday's Dark program. And, now we're a couple weeks away from the drop of the puck for season 9 for the Golden Knights. So it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm not going to stress out or get upset over things 13 and a half years ago I only dreamed I could be doing,
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that my wife and I talk about daily, where when that stress creeps in and that anxiety creeps in, and for good reason, I have a little Post-it note and I'll take it off my computer so you can see it. I'll share it with your listeners. It says 13.1, and that's a reference every day to 13 years ago I moved to Vegas. But 13 years ago, 1 week ago, I was chasing an acting career in downtown Los Angeles, working part-time as a bartender. So every day I wake up, I know that, these are good problems to have, and I'm just honored to have them.
Of all the things that you've achieved thus far, and I'm sure there's even more to come, is there one that's at the top of the list that maybe you're most proud of, or that was most surprising?
I think it's just raising the Stanley Cup. I think without question, it's being a part of a Stanley Cup franchise and, having fans call me and text me when I'm not at a game means the world to me.
Yeah.
I can't be everywhere, right? So sometimes Friday night I'm with WWE and we got a home game and I'm just not there. And when fans text me and say, "Hey, Shunock, where are you?" But I think just having played a small piece of winning it all, because it's so difficult to do. I think it's the hardest trophy to win in all of pro sports. But to just have played a small role in that, something that nobody can ever take away from you, right? You're a part of our club. George McPhee said it best. I bumped into him in the hallway a couple weeks after winning it all, and I said, "Boss, how do you feel?" And he really had no words, and he basically said, "I'm a part of a club that nobody can ever take it away from me now." Yeah. And, having now been on this side looking at the game a little differently, having won it all, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And there are days when I wake up and sometimes I want to look at the ring, and I open that box and I put it on, and, it's pretty crazy. I'm just a kid from the Sioux.
Yeah.
And, you get it, you get it better than anybody. I'm just a kid from the Sioux who works in entertainment, and I happen to win the Stanley Cup as a host.
It's pretty remarkable. So what's next? Is there a wish list? Is there a goal in mind that you still hope to achieve?
I think health is wealth, right? I think we spend a lot of time looking at our phones, and there's a lot of scary things happening in the world today. I try to just take everything one day at a time, and again, like we talked about, not get too stressed out, try to control that anxiety, because of, the planet is a weird place to be right now, and I just try to leave it better than the way I found it. And in entertainment, you kind of have to let the chips fall where they land. And that's a funny expression to say when you live in Las Vegas, because chips are flying all over the place all the time. And it's balance. And again, I'm beating a dead horse on this interview. I live in such a crazy place that having Sault Ste. Marie as my backstop or my support, I think that's a big part of why I'm still doing what I'm doing. So there are some goals and dreams out there that I want to achieve, but if they don't come to be, it's okay. I'm just, again, I want to just stay healthy as long as I can, so I can work as much as I have been for as long as I can.
Yeah, well put. Last one for you. What advice would you give a child or a youth who wants to follow in a similar path that you took?
Just do it. I hate to steal the phrase from Nike, but, I was fortunate to grow up in a time when there wasn't internet and cell phones. So, I use that as, the transition into nowadays, you can literally create from anywhere on the planet, and you never know who's watching. And that's the biggest key to a lot of people moving in different directions nowadays, because you never know who's going to see what you create and put on your social media platforms or your YouTube channel or whatever. I didn't have those when I was a kid. I had to go chase it in a different way. But in today's day and age, you could be making a show in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, or Hamilton, Ontario, or who knows where. Mm-hmm. And you just never know who's going to see you and help you get to that next level. And I'm a testament to that. I took a Golden Knights hockey job just thinking, hey, I'm a kid from the Sioux who wants to help a hockey team win a Stanley Cup. And that exposure in front of 18,000 fans, 41 home games a year is what changed my life. So you just never know who's sitting watching you, and getting watched in today's day and age is pretty easy. So just do it. Just do it. Go after it.
You've had a great career. I know it's not over yet. Continued success. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and whatever you do next, I know you're going to kill it and hit a Grand Slam home run. Mark, thanks for the time today.
Thank you so much for having me on and allowing me to get this story back to Ontario. It means the world to me. Really does. Thank you.
You got it. That is Mark Shunock. He is a host. He is a philanthropist. He's an actor, a former hockey player as well. Thanks for checking out the Newsmakers podcast, and a big thank you to the all-star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click that thumbs up, hit subscribe, and leave a comment as well. Catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.